Okay, good morning, everyone. This is the last day of April, so hopefully everyone is making sure all the right boxes are ticked for qualification for their commissions. Personal volume, organizational volume, personal group volume, all those criteria are being met. And of course, if you're working towards any particular incentives right now, be it the Power Start, be it Entrepreneurs Club, Team Kaizen, let's keep those at the forefront of our minds so that we make sure that we're staying on track and we don't miss out on a technicality, which is always one of the most devastating defeats when someone does so well and then a technicality compromises their outcome. We don't want to have that at all. I want to talk about today, I guess cover a subject that I discussed a little bit on Dave's morning rev call, which he held on Monday, yesterday, and then also weave in a couple of thoughts that have come as a result of some coaching and mentoring that's taken place throughout the course of the week as well, which kind of ties into that and kind of addresses two critical issues. So the first point that I want to talk about is, I'll start by sharing the example first, and that'll kind of give it context. I'm not sure how many of you relate to this scenario. I had a meeting a little while back. It was a midweek meeting, kind of early to mid-evening time. The appointment was booked, things were organized. The night came, and I didn't feel like going out. Have you ever felt that way? And you go, I hope I'm not the only one. If everyone's shaking their heads going, no, then I'll feel a little embarrassed, right? But I'm confident that everyone's felt that way at some point, yeah? And I just didn't feel like it. I don't know, but my mind was somewhere else perhaps. But of course, fortunately, the appointment was booked. So there was no stepping out of it. There was no changing plans. So I went and fulfilled the appointment. It turned out to be a wonderfully rewarding and enriching experience. And I came home that evening with more energy, more enthusiasm, and more positivity, definitely than how I started my evening with. Certainly, perhaps, it inspired me more than anything else I've done that week. Have you ever had that happen, where you've gone out not feeling too inspired, done it anyway, but then come back motivated and inspired as a consequence of the action that you took? It's interesting how that works, isn't it? And this is a principle that I want to discuss today. One of two principles that I want to discuss today is that too often we have a formula subconsciously imprinted in our minds that goes a little bit like this. In order for action, well, it goes a little bit like this. We need first, step one, emotional inspiration. As a result of that, it takes us to motivation. And as a consequence of the motivation, we get the desired action. So what that means is, if I want to act, I need to first be in an environment or a set of circumstances that will inspire me in some way to get sufficiently motivated to get out of my chair to take action. Do we see that happen? Sometimes I think most people subconsciously have that built in to their method of operation. In order to take action, I need to first feel inspired. The challenge with that, of course, is the opposite then rings true, which is, because I lack the motivation to act, no action happens. And how many of us, as a result of a lack of motivation or a lack of inspiration, find ourselves not doing enough, even though we've got certain objectives that need to be met? And that happens in a host of different ways, not just in business, but in life when it comes to losing weight, setting goals to read more books perhaps, or be more educated, to do a particular course, or to eat healthier, whatever it might be. We might have these particular goals, but when we don't have the inspiration or the motivation, the action falls away. It can also be a bit of a catch-22, because there is a paradox that exists in this belief model. Again, inspiration leads to motivation, leads to desirable action. Here's the challenge. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, someone has a broken relationship that needs repairing. Well, the emotions of that situation, which would be hurt, resentment, avoidance, completely go against the necessary action that's required to fix it, which is confrontation versus avoidance, honesty, and communication. So you get a contradictory set of actions because they conflict with the emotion that is being experienced that is needing to be resolved. That creates a problem, that, doesn't it? Likewise, if someone wants to lose weight, but they feel a massive amount of shame regarding their body, then the act of going to the gym is likely to inspire them in a way that actually encourages the emotions that kept them on the couch in the first place. So that can be a problem. So what we find here is that that belief model is actually contradictory. It's paradoxical in the fact that it creates a problem in itself. And it actually doesn't get us the results that we seek. So what is the model that we need to follow in order to get the right outcomes? Because this certainly applies. I'm sure each of us can look at this right now and look at our business activities and go, there are certain areas that need more action. How do I get that action happening? Because, as we were talking just before we hit record, we had a wonderful event in San Diego. Of course, I'm extremely biased, but I think we had a wonderful event in San Diego. As a side note, I've got here, if you can see, the recordings of every speech given on Saturday and Sunday. So I'm going to break them up into speaker and subject, and then we'll upload them onto YouTube so that everyone can get a chance to watch them separately. And it's all high definition, great quality. So something good for you there as a side note. So that will come in a few days. But the challenge with these events is we'll get inspiration and motivation in the moment. But a week later, we get home and that inspiration and motivation has gone. Yeah, and then it's back to the grind, isn't it? How do we act then? We've been inspired, we've got more knowledge, we've got more purpose perhaps, but the motivation has dropped because the mood or the energy that was there doesn't stick around forever. Emotions are designed to be temporary. I can't crack a joke, no matter how funny I am, and I think I'm pretty funny sometimes, but I can't crack a joke and have you laughing till Christmas. No one has ever been that funny. It doesn't work that way. We laugh for a set period of time and then the emotion passes. Yeah, that was funny. On to the next joke. And it's the same with the motivation from an event. You can be inspired for a period, a fixed period, and then that energy passes. That doesn't make us bad. That makes us human. So here is the solution. It's really simple. We actually have the formula back to front. We start with action. Action leads to inspiration. Inspiration leads to motivation. And then motivation leads to additional action, which leads to additional inspiration, which leads to additional motivation. Let's go back to, as an example, that first scenario that I gave at the beginning of the call. I had a meeting. I didn't feel like going out. I was lacking the inspiration and the motivation to do it. But I kept my commitment and I went out. The consequence was, as I took action, inspiration and motivation followed. It's interesting that, isn't it? I heard recently about an author who had written over 70 books. And someone had asked him, oh my goodness, how have you been able to write so prolifically and so consistently when authors are famously known for experiencing creative barriers, writer's block? And they'll go through these windows where they're procrastinating, they're putting off, and they're struggling to get the creative juices flowing. How have you been able to surge past all of that and keep on producing so much quality work? You say, I've got a simple model, simple formula. I've made a commitment to write 200 garbage words a day. He had a slightly different word for garbage. I just don't use that word. But 200 garbage words a day. Now, it's not because he wants to produce 200 garbage words a day or garbage at all, but he's learned this principle that if I just get started, if I just do something, then the very act of writing those 200 garbage words will lead to some inspiration, and it will create a result that will motivate me to keep on writing. And as a consequence of that, he has often found himself writing far more than 200 words a day, because inspiration comes from action. And motivation to keep going comes as a result of going in the first place. So this leads me to a very important principle that, again, is often overlooked or misinterpreted in network marketing in our business. We often talk about the importance of consistently reaching out to people on a daily basis. Yeah. I noticed Dave Johnson immediately nod his head. I love that. Thank you, Dave. But this is true. And it's not simply because we need to get a certain quota of people contacted. That's important, though that is critical. We want to hit certain targets because, to a large degree, it is a numbers game. Yeah. However, there is something far more profoundly important than doing a certain number of contacts within a month. And that is this: if I do it on a daily basis, let's say I have a minimum of, I'm going to speak to 10 people a day. If they're going to be short contacts, brief contacts, these aren't necessarily presentations. These are just contacts. If I'm going to do that on a daily basis, what are the chances that in the act of doing, I might get inspired as a result of one of those phone calls or one of those reach outs to do a little more, to speak to more people? Maybe I had a good experience and that motivates and inspires me to talk to a few more. And as a result, I might have a few days throughout the week where I've done far more than my minimum quota. And more work gets done, more inspiration is experienced, more motivation goes into my business than before. See, if we do it in fits and spurts, if I say I need to speak to 100 people, I'll do it on the 28th of the month, which might be, let's say it's a Saturday. I'll reserve Saturday morning and I'm going to churn through all of my 100 people that I was going to speak to in the month, and I'll do it in that one block of time. You might hit the number and tick the box, but what you'll miss out on is all of the inspiration and motivation that could have gone into your business throughout the month if you had been consistent in doing in smaller chunks on a daily basis. Because that could have resulted, if you'd have done it that way, in maybe 300 people getting contacted instead of 100. It may have resulted in a few more meetings happening with a bit more excitement and gusto than what originally would have been manifest if it was just done in one chunk. I don't know of many people that thrive in this business doing it in fits and spurts. I do know of people that thrive and do well when they're consistently engaged in business building activities. And it's the consistency that creates the motivation. And we can have bad days. Yeah, I get that. I understand that. I don't want us to have a formula for perfection, because that's overwhelming for anybody. And I'm guilty of perfectionism more than anyone, I think, that I know. It's a burden of mine that causes me anguish, which I have to work on. Any virtue taken to extreme becomes a vice. And this is a virtue taken to extreme for me that is a terrible vice. But if we can just measure progress versus perfection, yeah, and just say, let's just start with something today. Yeah. So if you're listening right now and going, I've done fits and spurts, I'm guilty of that, or that's my method of operation right now. Don't beat yourself up too much and go, well, what's the point in starting? That's what the perfectionist does. Yeah. That's how I've done it before. I can't do that now because that's who I am. I'll just stop before I start. Let's not do that. The key is to start small and to start now. Maybe that means after this call, we just make a few phone calls. And that's the commitment. I'm going to make a few phone calls tonight or before the day is out, and just get that done. And maybe as a consequence, inspiration comes, which makes you want to do a little bit more or a little bit better in some other way of the business too. It's remarkable how that works. So I want to just conclude this principle with a final thought. Because what we're talking about, if we look at this author saying, my goal was to do 200 garbage words a day, because he knew that more often than not, the act of writing would inspire him. And before he knew it, he'd have thousands of words down on a page. That's his rule that he applied. We've had this coined in other ways in other places, such as failing forward. Have you heard that before? That's the same principle, isn't it? It's let's just take a few small steps forward, even if we're going to fail, until we get to the point where we're succeeding. Or maybe we've heard the phrase, ready, fire, aim. Yeah. However we phrase it, it's all about taking some immediate action and starting to move forward with that. But here's the interesting thing. The more that time goes on, the more I have learned to recognize that success is less tied to knowledge and talent and tied more instead to action, which is supplemented with knowledge and talent. Yeah. You can become successful at something without knowing what you're doing. You can become successful at something without having a particular talent for it. But you can never become successful at something without ever taking action. Isn't that true? So we can see here the critical importance of taking action in order for us to succeed in business. It outweighs the talent, though that's important, and it outweighs the knowledge, though that is important too. We can't succeed without action, but there have been plenty of examples of people that have succeeded without talent or without enough knowledge. They've done it anyway, in spite of it. They've just taken plenty of action. Let's harness all three. Let's take plenty of action, but supplement it with good knowledge and with some good talent, and then we can be unstoppable. Now that leads me on to my final point, which is this. Sometimes we don't take action, as we've discussed today, because we're waiting for inspiration or motivation to come. And I get that. But there is another reason that we don't take action, which I think can be more challenging to confront than that model, because we've got that little formula back to front, like I talked about. Reversing the formula and starting with action can get us off to a good start. But there are others that won't take action, or the right action, for another more fundamentally critical issue. And that is that they don't believe that they are either worthy of the results that they want, or that they are good enough to become who they would like to be. I'll give you an example. And I'm going to refrain from using names or circumstances here, but I had a mentoring call recently with a wonderful member of my team whom I love dearly. And we were talking together about goals that they have for this year, what they wanted to become. And one of the goals was to reach platinum rank in their organization, in the business. Now, I suggested, we were talking through it, we were talking through the contact list, and talking about how to prioritize the contact list in an appropriate way to target the key people to bring in to get their business builders that they needed. They needed business builders, 3 key business builders to get to achieving their goal. And I said, what we really need to look at here right now is for you to think in the context of launching your business for the first time, even though you've already started and you've been in for a while. I want you to think of this as you're launching it for the first time. I said, but I want you to think of it in the context of you're getting ready to build a diamond or royal diamond business. When I said that, even though we were speaking via Zoom because we live many miles apart, I immediately sensed the energy shift. And what I mean by that was I could feel they felt overwhelmed. They felt overwhelmed that I don't think I can do that. I think that's too big for me. I don't think I'm good enough for that. And all of these barriers came up, right? And we talked about this. It was an emotional conversation. But I said, look, if you've, and I'm going to shift from that, highlighting that point, because this is the barrier that I think can hold us back. I said, you might be looking for the wrong people in your contact list, because what they responded with, I said, look, if you want to build that type of a business, then you need to look not for helpers or people that are simply feel-good people that will be good product retailers, or that maybe they've got some good contacts, but maybe they're very busy. You need to be looking for people that know how to lead a team. You need to be looking for people that know how to manage a large organization of hundreds, maybe thousands. People that will know how to host events and put meetings on, and how to really lead from the front. These are the people that you need to be looking for. And they said, I need to redefine my contact list, because all the people that I've got there that are my key people don't fit that category. And I said, well, we're addressing now and confronting a very interesting challenge, because what you've done is you've removed from your contact list anyone that has the seeds of potential significant duplication. If you want to get to platinum or diamond or royal, that happens as a result of being able to build teams and to have team builders in your group, because duplication is essential there for that to happen. You can get to silver and maybe even to gold with not much duplication going on. But to get to platinum, diamond, royal, you need duplication happening. That means you need team builders and people that can manage teams, organize teams, rally teams together. These are the people that you need to be looking for. Because of how she perceived herself, she had excluded those types of people from her list. They weren't even on it. So the potential for duplication was compromised before any activity even began. What does your contact list look like? We can not be working for a number of different reasons. One, maybe, like I said at the beginning of the call, maybe I lack motivation. Maybe I'm waiting for inspiration, and I've got my formula, my model back to front, and I'm waiting for those things to happen first. But as a consequence of being able to reverse that, we can take some action. However, other people might not be taking action, or might be taking diminished action, because instead they view themselves incorrectly. And the key people that they need on their list aren't on there. They've not put them on. Bo's just said something, Bo and Dave have said something. Dave said, you need a team to achieve big things. And as a result of the team, we need to have team leaders. And Bo's just said, out of large numbers will emerge a few great ones. And this is a critical point. We're not reaching to get a massive amount of team builders. We only need a handful of real strong team builders and a lot of team members for great things to happen. Yeah? But we need to get them on our contact lists. So my invitation to you is this, is one, flip the model. Start with action and let that action stimulate inspiration and motivation. Do it on a consistent daily basis, because if we don't, we will lose multiple opportunities where inspiration and multiplied activity will be expressed in our business if we're doing it consistently. We'll miss out on that. And our business critically needs it. Our team members critically need it. Secondly, please, please, please think better of ourselves. Know that you're worthy. Know that you have the right, the privilege, and the opportunity, and the skills, and the resources to capture those amazing team builders and bring them into your network. You've got the ability to do that. You've got the people around you to do that. If we don't think big enough, this is the challenge. It's the responsibility of the leader to think big. Sometimes we've said, is it all about, as I set my goals, is it about me thinking big to achieve my big goals? Is it about me helping other people to think big to achieve their goals? It's both. It's not a one or the other thing. It's a both thing. But I can't have my vision like this and then reach out to the big thinkers that want to earn 50,000, 15, 20,000 a month and say, I'm going to bring them and they're thinking like this, but my vision's like this. They'll look down on my vision. It doesn't embrace them. I need to think big enough so that they can all be embraced by my vision. And they can all be a part of the team. They can all be a part of that organization. We've got people in the organization that provide that type of support. that have that type of experience. We've got the likes of Botanis on the call here, the likes of Dave, the Barbara Tucci on the call that have all achieved great things. Mike DiMuccia, all of these leaders that have got great success that you can rely on their vision, their experience, that paint the picture to look like this and bring people in to be a part of it. We've got so much that we can offer, but if we think too small, we will not attract the big thinkers. Yeah, we need to be willing to think big. It's our duty as a leader to have a vision that is sufficiently captivating that we will capture the right people. Otherwise, what happens is this. If I think, and don't misinterpret this, if I think like a silver, I know there's a lot of silvers on the call, but silvers can be in their heart and in their mind, diamonds and royal diamonds. Yeah, you can all be that here before it happens tangibly in the real world. We've got to think it and feel it and be it in order to become it in the flesh. Yeah. But if I think like a silver, meaning my business is like this, then I'm going to talk to people that will fit that model. I'll talk to people that will do a little bit of retailing, that will recruit a few people every now and then, that will turn up once in a while to a meeting, that will plug in occasionally to a call, and I will meander along in my business doing that, have a few people coming in and a few people going out. And that's what will happen. And as a result, you'll move a little bit further forward one month, a little further back the next, and you'll just be bobbing up and down in the water. We can't have that happen. And the more that happens, the more anchored we get to incorrect beliefs that I can't get out of that cycle. Yeah, which is dangerous. So I want each of us to do something really important. If you can, cut ties with the past. If it's anchoring you to some false beliefs, it's easier said than done. If you want help going through that process, reach out to me, please, so we can unravel some of those incorrect beliefs and recreate some new ones. Yeah, because what we do is the fruit of what we think, feel, and believe. So if we need to change our actions, we need to change sometimes some of our thoughts and feelings. I've often said that people say it's thought is father to the deed, and I believe that emotion, feelings are mother to the thought. Yeah, what we feel often creates what we think, and neurologically it works that way. The neurological pathways in our brain are shorter to the emotional centers than they are to the cognitive centers, which means we feel quicker than we think. Okay, so sometimes we need to be able to create a space between how we're feeling and our action and go, wait a second, am I thinking the right thing here? And do a quick gut check and maybe reprocess. So I've covered a lot today. I think perhaps a little more than I was planning to, but I hope this helps. Like I said, 2 critical principles for the right action to come. First, start with action. Don't wait for inspiration and motivation. Flip that model on its head. Secondly, please know that you're worthy, know that you are valued, know that you have the resources and skills to get it done. Think and dream bigger, please, so that you can get on your contact list the right people that will generate the duplication. Like Mike said in San Diego, I think it was Mike, it's not what you do, it's what you duplicate that matters. And if you want that duplication, you've got to get the duplicators in. And the duplicators are the big thinkers that have got big goals and big plans. So let's start with a goal where we say, regardless of how long I've been in Nikken, I'm launching my business in a couple of months. And to do that, I'm looking for some key people that have got some lofty goals, that want to make 15, 20 grand a month, and they're going to go after this with fire and enthusiasm and conviction. And I can only work with a handful because we're going to create an empire. We're going to do this together, and we're going to go all out and get there as soon as we possibly can. If you want in, talk to me. We can facilitate this and make it happen. We're going places. I've got this team, and we're going to knock the socks off of people. If you want in, be a part of it. When you've got that kind of vision, when you've got that kind of excitement, people buy into and believe and are attracted to and sign up to that. The better way presentation, the business opportunity presentation, is not what gives people the grand sense of, I'm going to nail this. The big thinkers look at that and they say, I can share that with others and they'll get it. This is a message that is believable. I can hang my hat on it. It's authentic. But their vision and excitement for what they can become and achieve and gain through this business is a result of your vision that you share when you talk with them. That's what gets them thinking big, and that's what gets the big results. So let's start thinking much bigger, and let's see what happens as a consequence. Thank you all very much. I hope this has helped. And again, any unraveling that you need, give us a call. I'm here to help. Okay? Love you all. Speak soon.